So today's title is called Order of Operations with Integers. So just a little thing here. Don't forget, whenever a question has more than one operation, we must use BEDMAS. Okay, so here's what BEDMAS stands for. So B is for bracket, E is exponents, D is division, M multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So just a little note right here for dividing and multiplying. The first one moving from left to right is what you would do. Okay? And same thing here with adding and subtracting. If they had both of them in there, whatever came first, like reading a book left to right. Okay? Remember, pause the video whenever you need and rewatch as many times as you need. Okay, so on this first example here, we have example A, 3 times 5 minus 4. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is the 3 times 5. So we know that that is 15. And then we still have subtract 4. Okay, and then our second step would be 15 minus 4, and that gives us a final answer of 11. Okay, so B, down here we have 4 plus, and then in brackets 8 minus 3. Well, when we think of BEDMAS, brackets is first. So the 4 is going to stay the same, and the plus sign stays the same, but we need to focus on 8 minus 3 first, and 8 minus 3 gives you 5. Okay? So now we can do the second step, 4 plus 5, and that gives you a final answer of 9. C, we have 3 plus 2, and then a bracket, negative 5. Close the bracket. Okay, so there's nothing really to be done on the inside of this bracket. Okay, so what we want to do first is multiplying. Okay, so the 3 is going to stay the 3, and it's a plus 2. Okay, but then when we look here, 2 times negative 5 gives us negative 10. Now remember in yesterday's lesson we talked about when you had two signs back to back, if it's a positive and a negative, if it's one of each, you can replace it with a negative sign. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this to 3 minus 10. And 3 minus 10, or 3 take away 10, is negative 7. So that's your final answer. Next one, D. We have on the top, negative 15 plus 7 divided by negative 4. So we need to work out the top of the fraction first before we can divide it by 4. So on top we have negative 15 plus 7, and when you do this first, negative 15 plus 7, you will end up with negative 8, and then we still need to divide it by negative 4. Okay, and then we talked about negative divided by negative is a positive, and then 8 divided by 4 gives us 2, so the answer is 2. E, we have 5 plus 17 divided by 11, and then multiply it by 2. So the first thing that we have to do first is on top of the bracket. So 5 plus 17 gives us 22, and we still need to divide it by 11, and then multiply it by 2. Okay, and then our next step is we're going to do the dividing. So 22 divided by 11 gives us 2. Oops, wrong one. And then we still have to multiply it by 2 because that's what it says up here. And then at the end, 2 times 2 gives us 4. And that's our final answer. Okay, so for F, we have 8 minus 3 times, in brackets, negative 4, close the bracket, divided by 2 plus 2 squared. So the first thing we need to think of is BEDMAS. So there's brackets, but there's nothing we can really do in the brackets. So now we have to go to exponents, and we do have an exponent there. So I'm going to rewrite this. Okay, so equals 8. Everything stays the same. I'm just doing one step per line divided by 2 plus, and then we know that 2 squared is 4. Okay, so then we have, we're going to look here, and now we have multiplication and a division, but because multiplication comes first from left to right, we're going to do that first. So 8 stays the same, but we have -3 times -4. So negative times a negative is a positive, and then 3 times 4 gives us 12. And then we still have to divide it by 2 and then add 4 at the end. Okay, so our next step would be the division. So we have positive 12 divided by 2. So the 8 still stays out in front because we haven't touched that yet. And we have positive 12 divided by positive 2, which gives us positive 6. And then we still have plus 4. And then this we can all do at one step. So 8 plus 6 plus 4 gives us, well, we have 14 plus 4. And then when you add those two up, 14 plus 4 gives us 18. So that's your final answer there. Okay, so we have 2 left. Oh, I guess actually we have more than 2. So this one, we have to go, we have brackets. So we're going to do what's in the bracket first. So I'm going to keep my -20 out front and then divide it by. And then in our brackets here, we have 3 plus 7, which gives us 10. Okay, and then times -2. Okay, so now we have to go to division. So we have -20 divided by 10. So a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And 20 divided by 10 is 2. And then we still have to multiply by -2. You can keep it in the bracket if you want, or you don't have to. It means the exact same thing. Okay, and now we know that negative times a negative is a positive, and then 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, you don't have to write the positive in there. It's assumed that it's positive. Okay, next one we have H. And remember, pause it whenever you need and rewatch as many times as you need in case I'm going too fast. So 2 times, in brackets, 3 minus 7, close the bracket squared, minus -2 times -3. So first things first is we have brackets, okay? So we can simplify what's in the bracket. So 2 stays out front. But then we have 3 minus 7, which gives us -4, and that's squared. And then we're going to subtract -2 times -3. Okay, so now our next step would be exponents. Okay, so we know that 2 stays out front. -4 times -4 gives us positive 16. And then we have subtract. And it's -2 times -3. So our next step is we are going to multiply. So we have 2 times 16, which gives us 32. And then minus -2 times -3. And then we have multiplication again over here. So -2 times -3. So I'm just going to rewrite this first part, 32 minus. But then we know a negative times a negative is a positive. And 2 times 3 gives us 6. And now our last and final step. Remember earlier we talked about if we have 2 signs back to back, if it's a negative and a positive, we replace it with a negative. So this actually means 32 minus 6, and 32 minus 6 gives us 26 for our final answer. Okay, last 2 questions here. So this one looks pretty intense. We have all of this in a big bracket, so we have to do inside the big bracket first. Okay, so I'm going to keep this -4 outside. And then I'm going to open up the square bracket because that's what they have. And inside the square bracket, there's multiplication. So negative 3 times negative 2 gives me positive 6. And then I still have to subtract 4. Okay, so already it looks a lot easier than we thought. So we have to do what's inside the bracket next, which is 6 minus 4. So out in front stays the 4. And then 6 minus 4 gives us 2. And then our last and final step is negative 4 times positive 2. Negative times a positive is a negative. And 4 times 2 gives us 8. So your answer is negative 8. And last but not least, we have 2 minus 3 times in big brackets. So the square bracket is the whole thing, but then inside the whole thing we still have a second bracket, which is the 3 plus 7. So we're going to do that part first. So 2 minus 3 stays the same. Then we have our square bracket. And then we keep writing down our 5, but then we're going to do the 3 plus 7 first, which is 10. And then we still have plus 2. Oh, what happened here? Okay. Plus 2, and then it's cubed. So now we'll do one step at a time. We're going to work inside the bracket. So I'm going to have 2 minus 3. And then the first things first is 5 take away 10. So 5 take away 10 is minus 5. And then we still have plus 2. And at the end we'll cube it. So next, we're going to work on inside this bracket here. So I'm going to write 2 minus 3, and then inside this square bracket, 5 take away 2 gives us negative 3. Oops, wrong one. And then cubed. Okay, so now we have to do, the brackets are all done. So now we have exponents. So it means negative 3 to the exponent 3. So we have 2 minus 3 out front. But now inside this bracket, it's negative 3 cubed. So I'm not sure if this calculator can do it. I don't see the brackets. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And the answer should be negative 27. I might have made a mistake or didn't hit my negative sign. Okay, so let's just think of it this way. Negative 27 goes in, sorry, inside the bracket. Okay, so because it is to the exponent 3, we know that it's, I'll just write it over here. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Okay, so first off, 3 times 3 is 9. And then 9 times 3 is 27. Okay? And now let's look at this. Negative times a negative gives us a positive. And then a positive times a negative gives us a negative. So that's why negative 27 went right here. Okay? So our next step is we need to multiply negative 27 by negative 3. So 2 stays out front. We know that negative times a negative is a positive. So it's going to be plus. And then 3 times 27. Let me get my little calculator out here. 3 times 27 gives us 81. So it's going to be plus, oh, wrong one, 81. And then 2 plus 81 gives us 83. So that is your final answer. Okay. So now I'm going to post your work for today.